Fatima Nazari swept the floor of the empty training gym, her movements careful and methodical. At 47, she had been cleaning America's boxing gyms for nearly 2 decades, ever since she'd fled war-torn Lebanon with nothing but her determination and a degree in sports management that meant nothing in this new country. The sharp scent of disinfectant mixed with the lingering musk of sweat as she worked her way across the hardwood floors of Wilson's Boxing Club in Philadelphia. The gym had closed hours ago, but tonight was different. Through the frosted glass doors, she could see shadows moving in the office. The great Muhammad Ali himself was meeting with his team. Fatima had seen many boxing legends come and go during her years of invisible labor, but Ali was different. Not just a champion, but a symbol of resistance, pride, and faith, things that resonated deeply with her. Fatima's mop glided across the floor as she hummed an old Arabic tune, a lullaby her mother sang when storms rolled across Beirut. The melody brought comfort during these late shifts when homesickness crept into her bones, like the arthritis that had begun to plague her hands. If this story has already made you feel something, no matter how small, don't leave without giving back. Comment and tell me where you're watching this video from, and subscribe to the channel. The office door swung open. Voices spilled out, tense and frustrated. Fatima kept her head down, maneuvering around the boxing ring. She had learned long ago that invisibility was her best protection. "It's not working, champ," a man in an expensive suit said, gesturing wildly. "The exhibition match is in 2 months, and the numbers don't add up. The promoters are pulling back." Muhammad Ali, older now but still commanding in presence, nodded silently. His Parkinson's had progressed, making his movements deliberate. His famous voice softened to a whisper. 5 men surrounded him, managers, agents, accountants, all talking over each other about percentages, promotions, and problems. "We need to face facts," another man said. "This comeback charity exhibition might have been a good idea 3 years ago, but now? The sponsors are nervous about your health. They don't think people will pay to see..." "To see what?" Ali asked. His words measured and careful. "To see an old man who shakes, to see if the greatest still has it." The silence that followed was painful. Fatima felt her chest tighten. Without thinking, she whispered in Arabic, words her father had taught her. "They see the trembling hands, but miss the mountain that stands." Ali's head turned sharply toward her. The men followed his gaze, noticing Fatima for the first time. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, reverting to English. "I didn't mean to interrupt," but Ali was smiling now, a slow, deliberate curve of his lips. "What did you say?" he asked in English, his voice barely audible. Fatima hesitated, then repeated the proverb in Arabic. To her surprise, Ali responded in halting Arabic, "The mountain still stands." The men exchanged confused glances as Ali motioned for Fatima to come closer. "Your name?" he asked. "Fatima Nazari. Where did you learn that saying, Fatima Nazari?" "My father. He was a boxing coach in Beirut before the war." Ali's eyes showed a spark of interest. "And what would your father say about my situation?" Fatima gripped her mop handle, years of staying silent warring with the sudden invitation to speak. "He would say that people don't come to see just the punches. They come to see the heart behind them." One of the suits scoffed. "No offense, ma'am, but we're discussing serious business here." Ali raised a hand, silencing him. "Let her speak." Something in Fatima broke open. Perhaps it was seeing her childhood hero asking for her opinion, or perhaps it was 2 decades of ideas kept locked away. "Your exhibition shouldn't focus on whether you can still fight like before. It should celebrate what you've always fought for: justice, dignity, faith." The room fell silent as Ali studied her face. "That's actually not a bad angle," one of the younger managers admitted. Ali's eyes never left Fatima's. "Where did you learn about boxing?" My father's gym, then university, sports management, before I came to America. And now you clean floors? Fatima smiled sadly. In America, I clean, but I watch, I listen. I understand this business better than these men think. Ali nodded slowly, then turned to his team. Everyone out, except you, he pointed to Fatima. You stay. The next morning found Fatima sitting nervously in the corner booth of a small diner across from the legendary Muhammad Ali and his most trusted advisor, Howard Bingham. She had barely slept, replaying last night's conversation in her mind. How Ali had asked questions about her background, her knowledge of boxing, her thoughts on his career. How he had listened with genuine interest as she spoke of marketing approaches that honored legacy rather than trying to recapture past glory. Fatima, Ali said, his voice stronger in the morning light. I've made many decisions on instinct. Some people call it crazy. Howard chuckled. Most people called it crazy until they saw it work. Ali's lips twitched with amusement. I want you on my team. Fatima nearly choked on her coffee. Excuse me? Not as a cleaner. As part of management. Howard leaned forward. Muhammad believes you have insight we need, experience we lack. The exhibition is in trouble, and we need fresh eyes. Fatima placed her cup down carefully. Mr. Ali, I'm honored, but I haven't worked in sports management in 20 years. I cleaned your gym, and before that, Ali pressed, I had a degree, experience in Beirut, but that was another life. No, Ali said firmly. Same life. Same Fatima. His hand trembled as he reached for his water, but his eyes remained sharp. People always try to tell me who I am, what I can't do. Don't do the same to yourself. Fatima felt tears threatening. It's not that simple. I have responsibilities, bills, my daughter's college tuition. Howard slid a folder across the table. This is our offer. 2 months initially. Help us reimagine this exhibition. Make it about legacy, like you said. If it works, we'll discuss something permanent. Fatima opened the folder and gasped at the figure written there. It was 4 times her annual cleaning salary. I don't understand, she whispered. Why me? Ali smiled. Because you see me as I am now, not who I was. Because you speak the truth without fear. Because Allah puts people in our path for a reason. Fatima thought of her father, who had died still believing she would someday return to sports management. She thought of her daughter, Yasmin, studying business while working part-time to help with expenses. She thought of 20 years of invisible labor, of ideas silenced, of potential buried. If I accept, she said carefully, I have conditions. Howard raised an eyebrow. Already negotiating? First, I need flexibility for my daughter's college events. Second, I need the authority to implement changes without constant committee approval. And third, she hesitated, I won't be anyone's token diversity hire. If I fail, fire me. But if I succeed, I want recognition. Ali's eyes crinkled with amusement. She negotiates like my first manager. Howard shook his head. Better. His first manager would have asked for a percentage. That's my 4th condition, Fatima said, surprising herself with her boldness. If the exhibition exceeds projected revenue, I want a percentage of the overage. The men exchanged glances before Ali extended his trembling hand. Deal. As Fatima shook it, she felt the weight of 20 years lifting from her shoulders. But new fears rushed in to replace them. What if she failed? What if her ideas were outdated? What if the boxing world wouldn't accept her? Her phone buzzed, a text from her daughter. How was work? Any interesting spills to report? Fatima stared at the message, contemplating how to explain that her life had just completely changed course in the span of 24 hours. 3 weeks later, Fatima stood in Ali's home office, surrounded by crumpled papers and empty coffee cups. The initial excitement of her appointment had given way to harsh reality. The exhibition was 6 weeks away, and problems multiplied daily. Sponsors remained skeptical. Ticket sales were sluggish. The venue was threatening to reduce capacity. "They want you to appear on the morning show tomorrow," she told Ali, who sat in his favorite armchair by the window. I declined. "Why?" Howard asked, looking up from his laptop. "That's prime exposure." "Because they sent questions focusing on his health, not the exhibition. They want to turn it into a pity party." Fatima crossed items off her list. "We control the narrative, remember?" Instead of traditional media, Fatima had been orchestrating a series of intimate videos. Ali visiting his old neighborhood gym, mentoring young boxers, discussing his humanitarian work. Released online, they had garnered millions of views, creating a buzz without exploiting his condition. "The merchandise samples arrived," Fatima continued, opening a box. Instead of typical boxing gear, she had designed a collection that celebrated Ali's cultural impact. Beautifully crafted prayer rugs, leather-bound journals with his quotes, scarves printed with his poetry. "These tell your story beyond the ring." Ali fingered the silk scarf, nodding approvingly. "Beautiful." But Howard looked concerned. "It's different, I'll give you that. But boxing fans expect certain things. Gloves, robes, action photos." "We're not just targeting boxing fans," Fatima explained. "We're reaching people who admire Muhammad as a cultural icon, a man of faith, a humanitarian." The strategy was bold, but resistance came from all sides. Ali's long-established team questioned her decisions. Promoters pushed back against her insistence that the exhibition should feature young boxers from underprivileged communities alongside Ali. Vendors complained about the unconventional merchandise. Even Yasmin had concerns. "Mom, are you sure about this?" she'd asked during their weekly dinner. "If it fails, these powerful men will blame you, not themselves." The pressure was immense. Fatima often found herself working until midnight, then waking at dawn to pray and start again. The arthritis in her hands flared painfully from the constant typing and phone calls. One evening, as rain pelted the windows of Ali's study, Fatima slumped in her chair, exhaustion overwhelming her. The latest projection reports showed they were still below target. A key sponsor had pulled out that morning. "Maybe Howard is right," she murmured to herself. "Maybe I'm pushing too far from tradition." Having doubts, Ali's voice came softly from the doorway. He moved slowly to a chair across from her. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't know you were still awake." Ali settled himself carefully. "Doubts. Keep us honest." Fatima gestured to the reports. "We're still behind where we need to be. People are resistant to change." "People were resistant when I changed my name," Ali replied. "When I refused the draft. When I converted." His trembling hand reached for a photo on the desk, himself as a younger man, standing proud and defiant. "Being right doesn't make the path easy." "But what if I'm not right?" Fatima asked. "What if I'm ruining your final exhibition?" Ali was quiet for a long moment. "When I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, doctors told me what I couldn't do anymore. Reporters wrote that my legacy was over." His eyes, still bright with intelligence, met hers. "But my body changing didn't change my purpose. You understand that in a way others don't." Fatima felt tears threatening. "Because I had to reinvent myself too." Ali nodded. "Tomorrow, bring your daughter to training. I want to meet this girl who's studying business while her mother changes the boxing world." The next day, Yasmin accompanied Fatima to the gym, where several young boxers were training for the exhibition. Watching her mother direct photographers, consult with Ali, and negotiate with vendors, Yasmin saw her mother not as the tired woman who came home smelling of cleaning products, but as a confident professional respected by everyone in the room, including Muhammad Ali himself. "Your mom," Ali told Yasmin during a break, "reminds me that our greatest fights are never in the ring." By the time they left, something had shifted. Fatima stood straighter, her vision clearer. The exhibition wouldn't just celebrate Ali's legacy, it would herald her own return from the shadows. The night of the exhibition arrived, transforming the Philadelphia Convention Center into a celebration of Muhammad Ali's life journey. Instead of focusing solely on his boxing achievements, the space told a complete story. His childhood in Louisville, his Olympic victory, his controversial stance against the Vietnam War, his humanitarian work, his battle with Parkinson's. Visitors walked through gorgeously designed pavilions featuring artifacts, photos, and interactive displays. Local artists had created installations representing Ali's most famous quotes. A prayer room offered a quiet space for reflection. Screens showed Fatima's video series, which had gone viral in the weeks leading up to the event. In the center, a boxing ring stood ready, not for a traditional match, but for something more meaningful. Ali would not be boxing. Instead, 12 young fighters from struggling communities around the world would demonstrate their skills, each representing a principle Ali had fought for: courage, conviction, compassion, faith. Backstage, Fatima adjusted her hijab nervously. The exhibition had sold out 2 weeks earlier. All the merchandise had pre-sold. Major networks were covering the event. Even the skeptical sponsors had returned, bringing others with them. 5 minutes, Ms. Nazari, an assistant called. Fatima nodded, checking her notes one last time. Then she felt a presence beside her. Ali, dressed in an immaculate suit, his silver hair gleaming under the lights. "Ready?" he asked. "Terrified," she admitted. "What if—" "No what-ifs tonight," he interrupted gently. "Only what is." They moved toward the entrance to the main floor. Howard joined them, beaming. "We've already broken revenue records. The online campaign reached 23 million people. The governor just arrived." Ali's eyes twinkled. "Does this mean Fatima gets her percentage?" Howard laughed. "A substantial one." The crowd's roar greeted them as they emerged. Thousands of people, of all ages, races, and backgrounds, stood in respect. Yasmin waited at the ringside, pride shining in her eyes as she watched her mother walk alongside the legend. When Ali carefully climbed the steps to the ring, the audience fell silent. Fatima had insisted there be no microphone stand. Instead, a young boxer held the microphone to Ali's lips so he wouldn't have to struggle with his trembling hands. "People ask why I'm here tonight," Ali began, his voice soft but clear in the hushed arena. "They think because my body shakes, my spirit must be weak." He paused, looking out at the sea of faces. "But strength was never about how hard I hit. It was about standing up after being hit." The crowd erupted in applause. Ali waited for it to subside. 2 months ago, a woman cleaning my gym floor reminded me of this truth. Tonight, she stands here not as my employee, but as my manager and friend. Fatima Nazari saw me, not the young champion, not the sick old man, but me, as I am now. Still fighting, still standing. Tears streamed down Fatima's face as Ali motioned her forward. "Sometimes our greatest victories come after our careers end," he continued. "Sometimes we must lose everything to find our true purpose." Fatima lost her country, her career, her dreams. But tonight, she shows us all how to rise again. The young boxers entered the ring, each carrying the flag of their home country. The exhibition began, not with a focus on past glories, but on future possibilities. Each bout was preceded by the boxer's story, of poverty overcome, of discrimination faced, of dreams pursued against impossible odds. Throughout the evening, Fatima moved between coordinating with staff, speaking with sponsors, and checking on Ali. At one point, she found herself standing beside her daughter. "Mom," Yasmin whispered, "I've never been so proud." "You did this." Fatima shook her head. "We all did this. Muhammad, the team, you, supporting me through all those years of cleaning." "But it was your vision," Yasmin insisted. "Your courage to speak up that night in the gym." As the final bout concluded, Ali returned to the ring. The crowd stood in reverence as he presented medals to each young boxer. Then, to Fatima's surprise, he beckoned her forward. 20 years ago, Fatima Nazari came to America and was told her education, her experience, and her voice didn't matter. Ali announced, "Tonight proves they were wrong." He nodded to Howard, who stepped forward with an envelope. "This exhibition has raised $3 million for youth boxing programs in underserved communities worldwide," Ali continued. "And I'm pleased to announce that Fatima Nazari will direct this initiative as the permanent head of the Muhammad Ali Legacy Foundation." The crowd erupted as Fatima accepted the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was not just a contract, but a handwritten note from Ali. "The mountain still stands." Later that night, as the last guests departed, Fatima found herself alone in the quiet arena. She walked slowly around the empty ring, touching the ropes gently. 2 months ago, she had been invisible, sweeping floors after hours. Now she stood in the spotlight, her future suddenly as bright as her past had been difficult. Her phone chimed with a text from Yasmin. "CNN wants an interview tomorrow. Also, I'm changing my major to sports management. Hope that's okay." Fatima smiled through her tears. Some victories weren't announced with belts or medals. Some champions never stepped into a ring. Some fights, like the one for dignity, for second chances, for recognition, happened in the quiet moments when you refused to stay down. In the distance, she could hear the cleaning crew arriving. They moved with the same careful efficiency she had shown for 20 years. Fatima walked over and introduced herself to a middle-aged woman pushing a mop bucket. "I used to do your job," she said kindly. "What's your name? If you've made it this far and felt every word, don't leave without subscribing. I tell these stories with my heart in hand to reach people like you, who feel, who get emotional, who live. If this truly touched you, give back, comment, subscribe. Come be part of this family with me until the next video."